All right. Well, while my colleagues continue to admit some of the folks who are still joining, so I apologize for the beeps in the background from Teams. That's just simply folks still coming online. I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome. My name is Travis Hall. I am the acting Deputy Associate Administrator for the Office of Policy Analysis and Development here at the National Telecommunications Administration. The National Telecommunications Administration, or NTIA, is a part of the Department of Commerce. And we here at OPAD are focused on telecommunications and information policy as the President's principal advisor on those issues. Want to both welcome you and very much thank you for taking the time out of, I'm sure, what's everyone's busy days and schedules to talk about this really important topic of kids online health and safety. We are convening this this listening session as a part of the Kids Online Health and Safety Task Force, which was created by the White House in May of last year in 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide here, just simply to give a quick agenda, a very high-level agenda, which is just simply that I'm going to be doing some overview and some housekeeping. I'm going to be the MC for this listening session. Then we're just going to dive right straight into the listening session itself, followed by some closing notes, some closing remarks, again by me. Back to the opening remarks, the Kids Online Health and Safety Task Force, again, was created by the White House in recognition that we do need to, that there are harms that are happening today, and that we need to work to better protect our children, both in terms of their health, in terms of their safety, and in terms of their privacy. And so we are partnered with the Department of Health and Human Services, specifically the SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, in running this task force. And we are joined in the task force by a range of partners from across the interagency, representing a variety of expertise and equities in this space, including some of our law enforcement partners from the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, as well as others who are focused on health issues such as the Centers for Disease Control, and some of the technical aspects such as our sister agency here at the Department of Commerce, the National Institutes of Standards and Technologies. The task force has a series of deliverables and taskings from the White House, but one of the primary ones is to do outreach to the public, to folks who have expertise in this area, and to those who are affected by these issues. And this listening session is a part of that outreach. Ultimately, this is going to help lead to deliverables that the task force is going to be presenting to the president, including specifically for this particular listening session, where a focus on what the status of current industry efforts are with regards to kids' online health and safety, as well as a voluntary guidance, toolkits, and policies for privacy, health, and safety by design for industry folks, for online platforms and services in their interactions with children. And just want to note that in addition to the listening session that we're hosting today, we also published a request for comment late last year. And I just want to note and say a huge thanks to everyone who did participate and submit feedback into that request for comment. Today's session is looking to supplement the information that we heard there, as well as to hear from others who might not have had the opportunity to submit comments. And so for today, again, what our focus truly is on current status of industry efforts in terms of protecting kids' online health, safety, and privacy, as well as in terms of informing the deliverables that we have to the White House in terms of these this guidance, these toolkits, what industry can or should be doing, how we raise that bar, how we can lead in better protecting our children. A few housekeeping rules for today. One, the event is being recorded and will be posted to our website after the event. It's not going to be posted immediately. We have to do a little bit of technical work on that, but it will be posted in the next few days. If you are interested in speaking, please use the raise hand function within Teams. If you are on the phone calling in and would like to participate, you can press *5 on your phone to raise or to lower your hand. We will be calling on participants in the order that they raise their hands, and how that process works is that one of my colleagues will be putting you into participant mode or a presenter mode. You can then, when I call on you, unmute yourself. We are asking that participants limit themselves to 3 minutes of presentation, just in order to ensure that everyone has enough time to speak. I will note that if you have more to say at the end of your 3 minutes, you can go offline and you can raise your hand again. If we do have enough time today, I'd be more than happy to call on folks a second time in order to finish up what their presentations are. But we just want to make sure that, given the interest and given the importance of this topic, that we are able to hear from as many people as we can. If you are having technical difficulties, or if you have some notes or some things to raise to us, to the team, please email kohsrfc@ntia.gov. That's kohsrfc@ntia.gov with any questions or difficulties. Also, if you're on the phone and the *5 doesn't seem to be functioning, please go ahead and shoot us an email. And when you do speak, again, you can unmute yourself. Please limit yourself to the 3 minutes. I'll be working on giving you a 1-minute warning. And when you are done speaking, please make sure that you lower your hand. Otherwise, we will lower your hand, and then you'll be able to raise your hand again. Please note, this is a public forum. We are recording, we are posting this. Any inappropriate or disruptive behavior, we will be removing people from the meeting. But of course, we want to limit the necessity of doing that as much as possible. And with that, I see that we already have one raised hand. Folks who are interested in speaking, please go ahead and start raising your hands. And I once again thank you all for your participation. And at the beginning, and of course I'll do this again at the end, want to give a huge shout out to the team who is working on this on the NTIA side, to Russ Hanser, to Emma Alonso, to Christopher Quarles, Justice Shannon, and to Ruth Udakin for all the hard work in terms of making today possible. And with that, kicking over to my team, if we could go ahead and get our first participant on. I'll also note just one quick final bit of housekeeping. When you're speaking, please make sure that you are identifying yourself and your organization. You can come on camera in order to speak, that's fine. But if you are not speaking, we would recommend that you stay off camera, again, just simply because this is being recorded. And with this, if we could get David Sullivan up, and then David, as soon as you're ready, you can unmute and you can go ahead and speak. Thank you so much. David, are you able to mute, or are we? I know that it always takes a few minutes to get these things to go through. I think you just need to unmute yourself. You should be in the mode where you can speak. We have given you privilege to unmute, David. We'll give one more minute and see if we can get that to work. All right. David, unfortunately, we're having a little bit of a hard time. We're going to keep you on as a potential participant to hopefully maybe you can try and figure out in the background. Maybe we can go ahead and go to Medha.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Medha Tare. I'm the Senior Director of Research at the Joan Gans Cooney Center, which is an independent research and innovation lab within Sesame Workshop that advances positive futures for kids in the digital world. Thank you for hosting this event to identify and mitigate potential adverse health effects on online platforms on minors and holding this listening session today. We wanted to just reiterate our sort of positions from the Cooney Center and being part of Sesame Workshop, which has existed for over 50 years in creating positive digital spaces for kids. We wanted to advise that in seeking to shape your work in this space, we encourage an approach that puts children at the center, is evidence-based, and considers how to encourage the design of positive digital communications that keep kids safe, but also allow them to explore, learn, grow, develop resilience, connect with others, find belonging, and feel empowered and competent. At the Cooney Center, we have been dedicating our efforts to equipping and empowering designers of digital spaces and experiences for kids to include well-being as a part of their practice. And we believe that focusing on well-being by design is an efficient and effective way to reach our shared goal of improving the online world for children. And I'll give two examples of this work. One is with the Responsible Innovation and Technology for Children initiative, which was founded by the LEGO Group and UNICEF and published a report in 2022 that brought together a group of international stakeholders to ask children what well-being meant to them, formulate and test well-being outcomes in digital play, and develop tools for businesses and governments to put the well-being of children first. The second is a well-being by design fellowship, where we have just announced fellows this week from companies like Google, Roblox, PBS Kids, and iCivics, who are interested in learning more and having more tools and guidance on how to create design interactive media for kids and families with well-being in mind. So with that group of fellows, we're going to workshop ideas in order to share case studies of how to better support positive outcomes in digital spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I see Alexa has her hand up next. If we could get Alexa put into participant mode, and then Alexa, looks like you're set to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Alexa Mooney. I work at the Future of Privacy Forum, FPF. It's a global nonprofit organization dedicated to responsible and ethical data privacy practices. My work focuses on privacy protections and online safety for youth and students. FPF has submitted comments to the NTIA RFC on kids' online health and safety, and we would really like to highlight the main points that we think are important for the task force to consider. Online youth safety protections often intersect or overlap with privacy issues, which is going to impact kids' and teens' privacy. As we described in our comments, these issues affect young people differently based on the type of service or online platform used, for example, social media versus gaming versus online tutoring. For example, privacy protective default settings are inevitably going to differ between platforms, even when a social media site and an online game, for instance, both have online chat features. A social media site may use default settings to prevent teens from sharing their location, and sharing settings are defaulted to only friends or phone contacts without the individual's ability to expand the settings to share with strangers. Whereas for an online game that's on a PC or a gaming console, it may or may not be able to access an individual's phone contacts and may be less likely to have features that enable sharing location. Online protections are also going to look different across different developmental stages of minors. a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old obviously are going to have different online protection and privacy needs. So online safety and data protections are actually not currently codified for minors between 13 and 18 years old. Regardless of these nuances, companies providing online services have been finding ways to increase privacy protections for kids and teens while navigating these nuances. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. We believe that some of the best practices are ones that promote online safety for minors by applying strong overarching principles while thinking critically about the nuances between issues across developmental stages of minors and across different online platforms. We wanted to give some examples of what leading companies are doing that we think are good practices. For instance, collecting information for age assurance. In this instance, you're always going to have competing privacy versus accuracy. The more information you collect, the more accurate it's going to be, but the more information you're collecting. Some companies currently use age assurance in a layered approach. So at initial sign-up, if the experience is lower risk, an age gate may be appropriate. If a teen engages with a higher risk feature, the company may choose to request more privacy invasive age verification information, such as government ID. A common safety concerns is minors speaking with adult strangers online. Leading companies are addressing this concern by configuring default settings for minors' accounts to be tailored to different developmental stages, such as minors under the ages of 18, 16, 13, and 10, in regards to whether their account is publicly viewable or private by default, whether their accounts can receive messages or requests from accounts that are not their friends or followers, limiting the discoverability of minor accounts, the suggestion of adding minor accounts as a friend, or the ability of suspicious adults to contact minors. Leading companies are using practices such as these, not in response to compliance requirements, but simply as good practices. Though the safety and privacy issues in this space are nuanced, leading companies recognize and allow for nuance by adapting their best practices to the platform, to the service, and to the user's age, rather than adopting an inflexible, prescriptive approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great. And once again, would note that if you are interested in speaking, please feel free to raise your hand. Those who are on the phone, please go ahead and hit *5 to raise your hand or shoot us an email. And if you're experiencing technical difficulties, please go ahead and shoot us an email at kohsrfc@ntia.gov. Again, kohsrfc@ntia.gov. I did see somebody raise their hand, but then put it down. Again, feel free to go ahead and raise your hand if you have comments that you'd like to share. And we can go ahead and also get a queue going. So if others are speaking and you would like to go ahead and raise your hand, please go ahead and do so. Want to know that there's a lot of folks on, recognizing some of the names here. Know that you all have things to share, things to say. So if you have anything that you would like to share, not only with us, I would also note that we have some of our task force members on the line who are listening as well. And I've got David Sullivan. So if we could get David Sullivan into participant mode. And then David, let's try it again. Are you able to unmute yourself? You should be in participant mode now. David, unfortunately, we're still having some difficulties with you. Might I suggest going ahead and doing a call in for that and shooting us an email with your phone number? Hit the *5 and we'll get you on. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, David. Unfortunately, we are, of course, all limited by the technology that we use. But with that, let's go ahead and move on to Casey. Casey Pick, if we could get her onto participant mode, and then Casey, you should be able to unmute yourself. Casey, you are now on participant mode. You can unmute yourself. You're not able to unmute? Are you also having the same problem? Well, so I apologize about these teams' difficulties. it shows on our end that you are able to unmute. Let's see. And the only option that I have is to completely disable your microphone, which I don't want to do. So maybe we can do the same option, and I can suggest, and I'll go ahead and put the number up onto a slide really quick. If we could get folks to maybe call in, we might be able to get that working. So apologies to anyone who is in this situation where you're not able to unmute yourself. And why don't we go ahead and go to Brian, and hopefully we'll get Brian online. Brian, I can hear you. So
hi, this is both Brian.
Yeah,
you have two of us. We're doing this incredible thing of working in an office, not at home. So hello, this is Morgan Reed. I know several of the other people here as well. Brian Scarpelli to my left. First of all, Travis, thank you all for hosting this, and thank you for being able to turn on our microphone. The elements that I think are really important to remember through this practice and this activity is be very careful when considering actions taken, both regulatory and others, about scale for SMEs. Things that can be handled by companies with really large compliance departments can become impossible for small and medium-sized enterprises. And we should not underestimate that a lot of actually what we call edutainment, so in other words, actual educational software, things that are developed for homeschool families, et cetera, are often done by small developers. Yes, there's Pearson, there's other big developers, but a vast majority of kid-focused material is actually built by small and medium-sized enterprises. So be very careful to make sure that you scale practices to the actual risks presented, because it will end up being only the large companies that will be able to comply. Second, we think that an undervalued segment of all of the big tech issues is the value of curation, and that the platforms are able to curate, because one of the other problems is in the kid safety space is the availability of products that are either inappropriate for kids or that very misleading. And while we would love it if the Federal Trade Commission could go after everybody who engages in unfair and deceptive trade practices, it's actually important that platforms are able to curate and limit those. So we need to be very careful as you consider the value of platforms in at least providing some level of curation. And then I'm very much, many of you on the call-in list have been through the years of work around verifiable parental consent and trying to achieve something that parents will actually respond to. It's been really hard, as all 11 of the safe harbors can talk about at length in the COPPA space. Parents, 94% of parents say, yes, I care about my kids' privacy. But the moment you put an ounce of friction in front of them, their behavior changes. So as you're considering how to move forward, remember that anything that's put there has to be something that actually fits with parent expectations and and the ability of parents to both understand and engage with it. So it's very easy to start saying, well, let's add this and this click box. And I just remind everyone, how many of you actually read the post GDPR notices that we get constantly on our screens and what we accept? So I would say those three things: flexibility to scale practice to risk, ensure that platforms are able to curate, and remember that the parent is going to have to be accepting of the friction that we add. Otherwise, they will just abandon it and move on to general audience or behave in a way that is counter to what people expect or what they'd actually want in a perfect world. Thank you. Anything else, Brian? All right.
Great.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and just really quick put up for folks, just simply so folks are aware, this is the phone number for folks to dial into if we are, and if you do end up experiencing technical difficulties. I'll pop this up in between folks speaking, just so that we have that. And again, it's and Brian, and your time is up. Sorry about that. And we'll pop that up. And if you hit *5 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And with that, why don't we go ahead and go to Gaia. And Gaia, are you unable to unmute yourself? There we go. Great. Awesome.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Professor Gaia Bernstein. I'm a law professor at Seton Hall Law School and co-director of the Institute for Privacy Protection. I've published a book in 2023, Unwired, Gaining Control Over Addictive Technologies. I'm going to focus my comments on addictive technologies. My concern is that the attempts by the technology industry to solve the addiction problems have not helped. I believe the reason for that is that they did not really target the main addictive features. They, for example, screen time gives people information of how much time they spend on screen. It doesn't prevent them from spending lots of time on their screens. Lots of protective measures were not put as default options. And so I basically believe that in order to create a change, we need regulation, and that that's the only way to really move technology companies forward in order to redesign their products. For example, Instagram has known for a long time that their users see harmful content through the algorithms, but only last week we're expecting COSA that might go through Congress. We have seen a change. I think one of the biggest problem is the business model. We have a business model that uses our data and our time as resources. And we basically, for these companies to make money, we need to stay online for as long as possible. So they can collect more data on us and to show us more advertising. As long as this is the revenue model, it's hard to expect that change will happen voluntarily. I think there are two, in my book, I talk about many ways to create change. I'm going to focus on two categories here. One is direct pressure to redesign the technologies, basically prohibiting some very well-known addictive features like the infinite scroll, the pull to refresh. And the second way, and there are many ways here, is basically indirect pressure in order to make this business model less lucrative. So any restrictions on the collection of data, like the type that we see from the GDPR, the proposed rules from the FTC, any restriction at targeting advertising on minors, all of these make this business model less lucrative. And I believe we will only going to reach a solution at a point in which we are going to see other business models enter the market, business models which do not rely on our time as a resource, because only at that point there will be no incentive to use addictive design features. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a 646 number. So for the 646-595 number, we're going to go ahead and make you a participant and go ahead and, and it looks like we lost you, unfortunately. So for the 646 number, if you could go ahead and chime back in. Gaia, if you are not coming back up, if you could lower your hand, and we can go to Lisa Klein. And then hopefully the 646 number will be able to chime back in. And Lisa, you should be, you are not a part. There you go. You should be able to unmute yourself now. As not giving you the option. Perhaps we can try removing the participant mode and putting it back on again. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties on this. Really do apologize. All right, we're taking you off a participant. If you could try again to unmute yourself, Lisa. does not give you the option. Okay. So apologies to everyone for that. Here, let me go ahead and show the slide with the phone number for folks to call in. Hopefully we will be able to use some of the old school technology, the telephones, to remedy this issue. And again, once you have called in, go ahead and click *5 to raise your hand. And with that, let's go ahead and go to Aaliyah.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the chance to participate today. My name is Alia Bhatia, and I'm a policy analyst at the Center for Democracy and Technology's Free Expression Project. CDT is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization fighting to advance civil rights and civil liberties in the digital age for all users, including children. And so we are really grateful for the opportunity to submit to NTIA's RFC on youth safety, because we think protecting children online is a critical priority. We've long called for the passage of comprehensive federal privacy protections as a way to protect all individuals, including children. So I'm just going to highlight a few of our points from our submission, not all of them, because I'd love for everyone to read it, but a few that I think are helpful to highlight today. So number one, I want to caution against proposing content-based restrictions as a means to protect children online. Many approaches that we're seeing at the federal and state levels, including in regulatory agencies, sort of rest on the premise that certain types of content are harmful to children. However, studies show that what is harmful to one community of young people may be enormously helpful to another. According to the American Psychology Association, imposing barriers to access reproductive healthcare information, for example, may actually lead to a decline in mental health for individuals of different ages. In addition, many proposals that sort of suggest or require content-based restrictions require large general audience platforms by law to limit access to certain types of content, certain types of information, by imposing a legal obligation or strongly incentivizing these online service providers to filter out this harmful content using some sort of content filtering technology. So the threat of enforcement action and then this potential liability sort of leads online services to err on the side of over-filtering using or sort of tuning content filtering technologies to sort of remove content that might be borderline or potentially harmful to one subset of users, and sort of creates barriers to access lawfully protected speech. Content filtering technologies are imprecise tools that cannot parse intent and are likely to limit access to this very important information. One example I'll suggest to sort of paint a picture is that a lot of these content filtering tools, or one of them, a keyword filter tool, might be trained on terminology to sort of detect and take action on speech related to speech used by proponents of eating disorders like thinspo or thinspiration. And so if this keyword filtering tool is trained to detect this type of these terms, they may also detect and enforce a services policy against content that promotes eating disorders. They might also sweep in posts by recovery accounts or eating disorder sort of care accounts that also uses these terms or these linguistic markers to find people who are affected by these disorders and inadvertently sort of take down speech that actually helps these communities seek care and seek help. These tools are also notoriously error-prone when dealing with speech with regards to the LGBTQIA community and speech in different languages. I only have a few minutes, so I'll just rush through just two more points. In addition, I also want to plus one a lot of what the Future of Privacy Forum person said about the sort of privacy issues with the use or implied adoption of age assurance technology. But another privacy risk is sort of expanding the surveillance of young people by enacting or mandating parental control tools for young people, especially teenagers, and through sort of the expansion of school monitoring tools. And both of these sort of factors will undermine the privacy and safety of young people. There's an inclination to require more monitoring of young people to keep them safe, but child psychologists and pediatric experts argue that this will lead to a consequent loss of autonomy and independence, and which will drive worse mental health outcomes. Mandating these tools is also particularly harmful for vulnerable teenagers, ones that perhaps don't have a very healthy or trustful relationship with their parents or their caregivers. One such community is the LGBTQIA community. The Trevor Project writes that nearly a third of LGBTQ teens face housing instability because of their identity, and 16% have run away due to unsupportive parents. So sort of enacting or mandating the use of parental monitoring technology to sort of allow parents to view the search history, the activity, the behavior of their teenagers may result in worse sort of safety outcomes for this community. What can we do about this? One thing I'll highlight is one thing we can do is sort of advance more research into user tooling. There is a whole host of user empowerment tools that young people rely already on and actually specifically want and are calling for. My colleague just conducted a research. The paper is called More Tools, More Control, CDT's website, where she spoke with over 30 young people aged 14 to 21 to understand the unwanted encounters that young people face on direct messaging services, and found that overwhelmingly teenagers were like, give us tools to equip ourselves with the ability and autonomy to actually keep ourselves safe, limit unwanted encounters, set our accounts to the privacy settings that we feel comfortable with, and also then ask for help when we want it. So we found that youth respondents had really thoughtful strategies to navigate online spaces and mitigate unwanted encounters. They rely on tools like user reporting and blocking tools, the ability tools to limit their profile from being seen by people who don't follow them or their immediate friend circle. And they're asking for more tools like user filtering tools. One youth advocate that we've been speaking with talked about, creating tools like on Tumblr, or like creating more systematic tools like the hacks and workarounds that Tumblr enabled, where you can sort of like create kit block lists on your specific page so you don't encounter terms that might be harmful for you. So empowering users to actually shape their own behavior is something that both is good for them, is both good for teenagers and also what they want. And we found that youth respondents actually, when they exhaust the use of these tools, do actually ask caregivers for help. They ask teachers, they ask their parents, and sometimes they sort of end up being frustrated asking for help from parents because the parents themselves don't have the understanding of a lot of the tools or levers to pull or the purpose of the technology. So the last push, this is my extra, is just also creating more digital literacy initiatives for both parents and young people. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and move to the 646-595 number. So I'm going to let you know as soon as you are in participant mode, and you should be able to unmute now.
Yeah.
646-595.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Great.
Great. This is David Sullivan. Thanks for putting up with my technical difficulties. I've turned my camera on here as well. Thanks so much. So I'm David Sullivan. I lead the Digital Trust and Safety Partnership, which brings together providers of diverse digital products and services around a shared commitment to best practices, accountability, and transparency when it comes to digital trust and safety. So we really welcome the Biden administration's engagement on this issue and NTIA's leadership here, and we're pleased to submit comments in response to the RFC. So while there are no shortage of challenges, we've heard many of them already on the call, when it comes to these complicated issues, I wanted to focus my really brief intervention here on the opportunity to try to align efforts across government industry and civil society around a framework that can help organize lines of effort based on how companies who provide these products think about their approach, and that's our Digital Trust and Safety Partnership Best Practices Framework. So this framework that we've published, launched our organization with, it's on our website, dtspartnership.org. It broadly tracks the product development cycle and consists of 5 overarching commitments to trust and safety on product development, governance of the product or service, enforcement of that governance, improvement over time, and transparency. And so underneath those 5 overarching commitments, we've articulated 35 specific but not comprehensive best practices, which are sort of specific and concrete examples of the types of practices that companies use to mitigate risks arising from harmful content and conduct. And those practices can really be tailored to the particular product and particular risk to really be proportionate, to be mindful of companies of different sizes, different capabilities, different threats. So this framework and practices, they're content neutral. They're not focused particularly on child safety or young people, but they can be used to address whatever content or conduct related risks are the issue on a given service. That said, this framework can also be applied to do deep dives on specific issues. And so we've already heard a little bit about challenges around age assurance. We convened a working group on age assurance and published a report on that in September of 2023, where we really tried to set out the kind of considerations and the trade-offs that our partner companies kind of think about and consider in establishing their own approaches to age assurance. And we identified some guiding principles and, again, some examples of specific best practices on age assurance that are set within this broader framework of these 5 overarching commitments. So when thinking about the hundreds of submissions to the RFC and in all of the remarks you're hearing from others during this session, I think, there's a lot of examples of very specific practices that the tech industry is using to really help young people realize their rights, have a safe online experience with privacy and whatnot. And I think trying to think about how to organize those practices within a framework that's been broadly accepted and used by industry is going to really help drive towards a more coherent and comprehensive approach. So the one other thing I want to say is just in our partnership, we're not just kind of articulating these best practices, we're also looking at developing rigorous means of evaluating how effective the practices are. So we've developed a methodology called the SAFE framework for assessing the implementation of best practices when it comes to trust and safety, and which is a proportionate and risk-based approach, where the amount of assessment that's done is dependent not just on the size of a service, but also kind of its risk factors. And I think that we'd really welcome the opportunity to follow up with NTIA to provide more information about how that approach to assessment and evaluation might be able to help inform the work of the task force. So with that, thanks very much, and glad I was able to come off mute finally. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And once again, I'm going to, before we move on to the next presenter, just going to really quick flash right here the phone number for anybody who may have been experiencing technical difficulties. Again, apologies about that, but please, as David showed, the phones still work and the phone lines are open. *5 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. Just a little bit of housekeeping notes to repeat. This session is being recorded, will be posted online. And if you do have comments, we are looking for you to please, when you introduce yourself along with your organization, and try to limit yourself to around 3 minutes. And with that, why don't we go ahead and go over to Maya McKinsey. So if we could get her off of participant mode, and Maya, you can unmute yourself now. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is Maya McKinsey, and I'm Senior Counsel of Tech Policy at the Entertainment Software Association, which is a trade association representing video game publishers and console makers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. ESA submitted comments to the RFC, and today we'd like to briefly highlight a few key points. First, our members are deeply committed to the goals of protecting children's safety online, and we encourage NTIA to embrace a flexible approach to online safety that empowers online platforms to develop tailored solutions that are best suited for that platform. Our members deliver high-quality interactive experiences that promote storytelling, competition, and camaraderie while maintaining the safety of all video game players, but specifically children as a top priority. The power of gaming lies in the ability to choose your own adventure, and an essential part of shaping that adventure lies in the way video game companies empower gamers, their parents, and caregivers to choose the most appropriate experience, but specifically, we're talking about those young gamers. Our members work to build trust with minor players, their parents, and caregivers by bringing the same level of creativity that they use designing video game environments to developing innovative trust and safety solutions that are tailored to video games. But these solutions are also fair, and they promote the health and well-being of players. For example, our companies make significant investments to create and adopt technologies to prevent inappropriate conduct and provide controls that empower players and their caregivers. In addition, for nearly 30 years, the video game industry's self-regulatory body, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, most commonly known as ESRB, has provided parents with transparent information about game content and in-game experiences so that they can choose the best age-appropriate games for their children. The majority of parents not only know about this information, but they're also using this information to make informed choices for their child. Over the last few decades, the video game industry has developed privacy settings and parental controls that are tailored, again, to gaming platforms. These controls accommodate the different contexts in which video game companies might process personal information and the various game functionalities that minors and their parents might choose whether to use. More broadly, we look forward to working with the NTIA in its assessment of the health, privacy, and safety of minors online. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We would be happy to follow up with your office to share more about the impactful work the video game industry is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Why don't we go ahead and go to Jennifer? Jennifer, we're going to get you off of, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you to everyone who's here and to the NTIA team. I'm Jennifer Hanley. I am the head of safety policy for North America at Meta. Really appreciate the opportunity to participate, and we were pleased to submit comments to the RFP back in November. We have been helping keep young people safe. We want to make sure that they stay safe online. It's one of the most important challenges facing families, parents, and all of industry today. So many of those of you on the call. Like all of you, Meta is committed to the safety and well-being of young people. That's why we've really worked with leading experts in mental health, child development, digital literacy, and more. Some of you are on the call today to develop over 30 tools and resources to help support teens and families have age-appropriate and positive experiences on our apps. We outlined a lot of those different tools and resources in our filing and hope that many are familiar with those. We believe that we do need consistent federal legislation that will make it simpler for parents to oversee their teens' online lives. So we're calling for legislation requiring app stores to get parents' approval when teens under the age of 16 download an app. A recent Morning Consult poll found that parents across both sides of the aisle overwhelmingly support this approach. About 81% of Democratic-leaning and 79% of Republican-leaning parents back federal legislation for parental approval of teen app downloads, and over 75% of parents prefer app stores as a more secure and straightforward venue for approving downloads and a more effective method than individual app-by-app approvals. So we want to make sure that we're finding workable solutions. Our proposal, we think, creates clear, consistent standards. We call for clear, consistent standards across all apps. We want to make sure that we're empowering parents and guardians. Our approach, we think, preserves user privacy and is a way that's technically feasible for the industry. Within our framework, as I've said, we are calling for parental approval for teens under 16 at the App Store level. So we think this will empower parents to approve the downloads, ensuring that they're overseeing their teens' online experiences. It's going to simplify the process and leverage optional approval systems already offered by the app stores. App stores would be able to notify parents, request their approval when the teen wants to download an app, including apps like ours, like Instagram. We also do think that parental controls, should be required, that certain apps like ours and other social media apps should offer supervision tools for teens under 16 for parents to activate and control. This will help give parents the tools they need to guide and support their teens online. And we think this is really important to be able to offer things like the ability to set daily time limits on usage, see which accounts their teens are following or friends with, and more. We do, think that requiring app stores to verify age and providing that age to apps and developers with this information will be also very helpful as part of this principled framework that we have. We are also calling on industry to develop consistent age-appropriate content standards across the apps that teens use. We think this will help parents have a better understanding of the content available to their teens and guidelines to help them evaluate whether an app's appropriate for their child. So we want to work to get broader alignment across the industry on types of content companies should consider age-appropriate. We also do think that it's really important to have a national standard on this. There is a complicated patchwork of inconsistent state laws, many more that have been introduced just in the last few weeks. And so we do think that preemption is really important in having national standards here. One of our last principles I wanted to note also is around ad targeting, that we want to ensure that industry develops ad targeting delivery standards that, for example, limit the personalization of ads for teens under 16 to age and location only. We outlined these principles both in our filing to NTIA, recently in a Medium post by our global head of safety, Antigone Davis, and really look forward to continuing the conversation with NTIA, helping inform the task force and engaging with others here on the call.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Lisa, let's try and get you off participant mode. And just 1 second, let's see. Yep, you should be able to unmute yourself, Lisa. Let's try it. Let's try it, and hopefully this time it works.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me. I'll be fairly quick. I know you have a lot of people to get to here. My name is Lisa Klein, and I'm the co-founder of the Student Data Privacy Project. I'm the former chair of the Fair Play Screens in Schools work group. I'm an active PTA leader in my community in Maryland, and founder of the Safe Tech Workshop. But most importantly, I'm a parent of a teenager. I'm on the front lines and very much a stakeholder in this conversation. So thanks for having people like me in on this conversation. Simply put, these products, particularly in light of the harms that are being revealed, should be put through very rigorous research due diligence, and they are not. Our children are decidedly not safe online. In fact, online safety has become a bit of an oxymoron to too many parents. These products are tested in market, which is a bit backwards. It's like a shoot first, aim later rollout model. And this needs to change. We need to find out what the harms are, where the holes are, what the flaws are before our children consume these products. Labeling the products by age appropriateness is vital, so we parents know what we're getting into. If you go through any store, a toy aisle, you will see toys, games, puzzles labeled by age. Now, these are by no means that benign, so they absolutely should have labels in place to help consumers know what they're buying. Research by neuroscientists and early childhood developers are essential. Industry-funded research does not count. So we need regulations, bodies of brilliant people to take a look at what's happening to the gray matter, to the social emotional well-being, to relationships and social skills that we all know these products are harming. And then finally, we must issue massive recalls on products like TikTok that are harming children. So they don't continue to harm children. We need to pull them off the shelf, much like we would a toy or a food product that is causing illness or even worse. So thank you so much for letting me share my thoughts.
Thank you so much for participating. We greatly appreciate it. So at this point in time, I don't actually have anyone in the queue. So again, if you are interested in participating, please raise your hand. Thank you, Will, for quickly responding. And really quickly, I'm going to once again flash that slide for folks who are having any technical difficulties participating. We have had now at this point in time success in doing the phone. So with that, Will, please go ahead. We'll go ahead and get you off participant mode, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you. And Will, you are off participant mode. You should be able to unmute yourself if possible. And Will, unfortunately, looks like we might be having some difficulties here as well for you. Will, I've got the number up if you don't mind giving that a call, and we'll hopefully get your thoughts shortly. So if we could go ahead and get Chris Perry up off of participant mode, Chris, and we'll get you, hopefully you'll be able to unmute. So Chris Perry, you are off participant mode. You should be able to unmute yourself. And looks like, Chris, we are having similar issues. My sincerest apologies for the team's problems. I still have that slide up. It's 202-886-0111, and then the code is 934305278#. If you could go ahead and call in, and then you can hit *5 to raise your hand. So Will and Chris, if I could get you to call in, we definitely want to hear from you. And others, if you are interested in participating, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll get you in. And I have a 202-394 number. You should be able to go ahead and press *6 to unmute. The 202-394 number. Go ahead and hit *6 to unmute, and we should be able to hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Will Cunningham. Can you hear me?
Awesome. We can hear you fine. And apologies for the technical difficulties. Appreciate your flexibility.
No worries. I'm happy to call in. My name is Will Cunningham. I'm head of government affairs for the Americas for Match Group. Match Group is the parent company of a number of dating apps. Tinder's probably our most popular product in the world. Hinge, Match.com is our original brand. The reason we are deeply concerned about making sure kids are protected online is because we've seen what happens on our platforms when app stores do not age gate at the app store level. And just to sort of amplify and echo what Meta has already said, I think the solution's been clearly presented. I think that is to the extent there's a silver bullet, that is it. We strongly believe that age gating is the solution and remedy here. When a parent gets their phone, a smartphone, or gets their child a smartphone, and kids as young as 5 now have smartphones and know how to use iPads with regularity. For the most part, parents are the ones who are setting up those devices, those Apple devices, at the point of purchase. They are inputting, especially if they know the item itself is for a child and minor in particular, they're inputting the child's birthday and the device iOS level, the setup level. The gatekeepers know when children possess these items, when children possess these devices. They, at the gatekeeper level and the App Store level, have the best insight into when children are using that device and accessing apps. And they have the best ability in the App Store to ensure that children are not getting apps that are not intended for them, whether it's gambling, whether it's dating. In our case, dating. We do all we can to ensure that our users are protected, and obviously we use AI to detect the language that we've identified that children may use when they inappropriately and against our terms of service download these apps. We can't stop them from downloading these apps because Apple won't age gate on the App Store level. What that looks like for us, and we're happy to do it. We're happy to have our platforms be free of children. Our terms of service are clear, 18 plus. But what we when we have credit card information from our subscribers, we run that against registered sex offenders lists. We ensure that folks who would prey upon children aren't even on, or prey upon any adult for that matter, aren't on the platform. That's something that could be handled at the APA level. The fact of the matter is, Apple in particular charges a 30% commission to digital goods, and in turn for upwards of $700 million that Match Group brands pay to Apple and Google combined over the years, they do not provide this level of security that we know for sure would ensure that kids are protected thoroughly as possible online from getting apps that are not intended for them. So with that, thank you for the time. Really appreciative of the government's efforts to do all they can to protect children online, and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Will. And let's go ahead and try to do Chris Perry again. We're going to take you off participant mode. Okay, Chris, you should be able to unmute yourself. If you are able to unmute yourself, please do so. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and post the call-in information again, and hopefully we would be able to get hear from you in that way. So, Chris, I can see you. You should be able to unmute yourself. And unfortunately, I do not see. I'm not hearing you. So if you are able to use your phone to call in, I've got the slide up. It's 202-866-0111. And we'll get you on as soon as we can. So in the interim, while we're hopefully getting Chris dialed in, let's go ahead and go to Andrew Zach. Andrew, we'll get you off of participant mode, and you should be able to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, and thank you for having this discussion today. My name is Andrew Zach. I'm the policy manager at FOSI, the Family Online Safety Institute. And we are a nonprofit membership organization that works to make the online world safer for children and their families. We submitted full comprehensive comments online back in November, so I'll keep this very brief. But starting with definitions, I think that's an important place where FOSI defines online safety as acknowledging the risks and mitigating the harms in order to reap the rewards of digital life. I think this is an approach that it sounds like NTIA and the task force is already taking, and was echoed in the Surgeon General's advisory, where this is nuanced. This isn't fully good or fully bad. There are online harms, there are online benefits and pros. And so I think keeping that in mind, this balance and this nuance, is really important. Like to expand on something that was already mentioned as sort of a best practice from industry that we've seen, is offering robust user online safety tools. Not just parental controls. We've seen a lot of legislation about that. We've seen a lot of ideas about parental controls, but as mentioned previously, there can be a lot of privacy risk, as well as risk of a youth's development and agency. And so young people absolutely want more options, more customization options in how they get content sorted to them, and who can contact them and who they can contact, all of it. So user online safety tools are distinct and separate from parental controls. I think we can also love the work that the whole interagency task force is doing. I think we can learn a lot from friends around the world, especially Europe. The UK's ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, has been doing issuing guidance and doing research and public consultation, especially on age assurance, for years. And they just updated, as recently as today, they just updated a new opinion about age assurance that incorporates a lot of feedback and addresses some emerging technology like AI age assurance. There's also, I want to highlight the Global Online Safety Regulators Network, started by Julie Inman-Grant, an Australia e-safety commissioner. And I think that has grown tremendously in the past year. And so if the US can participate in this global effort, since as mentioned earlier, the state by state, even country by country regulation is not the right approach here at the internet. Global and international cooperation is important. I appreciate that in the questions for the request for comment, there was a lot of attention paid to diversity and equity, since these are super important and can have real disparate harms and impact for especially teens. And finally, again, want to really appreciate that this task force exists, and we hope that it's just the beginning of the administration's work in online safety. FOSI has actually for years called for the creation of a new office for Chief Online Safety Officer that would coordinate all of these agencies, departments, and government wholly to focus on online safety, and including funding really relevant research, including something that we've sponsored, CAMERA, the Children's and Media Research Advancement Act, that would go through the NIH. Thank you for the opportunity, and we hope to look forward to working together.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the comments. Chris, if you have, Chris Perry, if you have dialed in, go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself. I believe that you're the 510 number, and we should be able to have you be able to hear from you. All right. So are you the 510-260 number? Yep. You should be able to hit *6 to unmute, and we should be able to hear from you. Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Apologies for the technical.
Sorry for those difficulties. Thank you so much. I'm Chris Perry, Executive Director of Children's Screens, and we submitted comments as well. The key concerns we highlight in our comments are the barriers to comprehensive research into impacts of technology and digital media, which Lisa Klein also touched on. These have led to major limitations to understanding the harms and benefits of digital media. Safe and effective regulation also require both an understanding of the impacts of tech and digital media and the internal operations of companies. Broadly, we recommend increased funding for research, enhanced tools and access for researchers, transparency requirements for companies and platforms, and data sharing and privacy guidelines. I'd like to highlight 3 specific recommendations we made in our comments. First, we must develop a system for connecting platform data to independent researchers who can objectively examine the effects on youth without influence from industry. A nationally structured system could go a long way in supporting this process and ensuring the necessary protections of data, restriction from influence, and other necessary standards are maintained. Second, it's important that businesses take every measure to ensure that their devices and software do not interfere with previously approved research software. We've already seen these issues when an Apple update interfered with monitoring software used in the ongoing adolescent brain and cognitive development study, ABCD, the largest longitudinal ongoing cohort study, and what could have been one of our best chances of understanding the impacts of digital media on children. When conflicts like these do arise, businesses should take steps to remedy the problem. Third, it's important that if a company is going to collect anyone's data, that the life cycle of that data be transparent and users still have control. This includes what is collected and how, where it is stored, the algorithms those data interact with, and if and when data is transferred. Protections for personal and proprietary information can be put in place, but these should not restrict select researchers, regulators, and organizations from having comprehensive access. Proposed legislation like the Platform Accountability and Transparency Act, PATA, provide frameworks for how to make this happen and how we could implement it, but regulators shouldn't feel restricted to these frameworks. Finally, users, children especially, should have control over how their data is collected, stored, and transferred. This includes the right to erasure of their data and confidence that they can reject data collection and still use a product or service. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate it. And thank you again for working with us on the technical issues. I don't have anyone currently in the queue. I'm going to go ahead and share once again the slide with the phone number in case folks are having persistent technical difficulties. Again, for those of folks who are interested in presenting, if you're on the phone, press *5. I see that I have somebody on the line with their hand raised, or please raise your hand. Once again, just for folks who might have joined a little bit late, this is being recorded. This will be posted to our website. Please make sure. We're looking forward to doing that. And thanks to everyone for participating. I did see that hand go down. If you, I believe it was the 562 number. If you are interested in participating, please go ahead and hit *6 to unmute yourself, and we should be able to hear from you. Thank you. So I think that's Casey. Yeah, 562. You should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah, you're on.
Am I on? Great.
Yeah. Yes. Great. Thanks.
Hey. Hi, this is Casey Pick from the Trevor Project. Thanks so much for the session and for all your work on trying to just hear the voices of many perspectives. Trevor is the leading suicide prevention and mental health organization for LGBTQ young people. We sit right at the intersection of mental health, LGBTQ youth interests, and also we have a social media platform where young people can find peer support, connection, and community called Trevor Space. So we are very much interested in a world where the internet is a safer place. We know that many of the issues that are being confronted for the mental health of young people, whether it be depression, anxiety, substance use, body image, suicide, harassment, bullying, violent targeting, all of these things disproportionately affect LGBTQ young people. So having the internet be a safer place, addressing any potential mental health detriments of a life online is critical to our community. That said, we also know that, especially in a time period where access to safe spaces, affirming environments is actively shrinking, whether that be through legislation limiting discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity in schools, violent attacks on drag shows or pride events. Sometimes our young people are making it very clear to us that online is the only place they can find community, where they can find information about themselves, their own identity, and where they can find resources to support their mental health, particularly as LGBTQ young people. We know from our research that LGBTQ young folks who reported feeling safe and understood in at least one online space had 20% lower odds of attempting suicide in the last year. We know that 93% of LGBTQ young folks have used the internet to find information that helps them understand their identity, and more than 2/3 of youth participate in online communities specifically to engage with other LGBTQ young people their age. So really wanting to call out that as we try to make the internet a safer place, we need to ensure that we are not inadvertently cutting off critical access to resources and community for some of our most vulnerable populations. Some of what that looks like, and I would direct you to the comments that we submitted, is ensuring that we are not incentivizing pulling down content about LGBTQ youth, particularly trans and non-binary youth, where we know that there is an active interest in using legislation, rules, and tools to suppress content about being transgender. We know that there's an active interest in that, so we need to avoid allowing these tools to be weaponized that way. Things like parental consent, I would strongly encourage a measure of flexibility there. Many LGBTQ young people experience family rejection. Many are homeless or in foster care. So the ability to have a parent who would consent to even connect with that needs to be nuanced and carefully handled so that there are perhaps alternatives or mechanisms so that those young folks who don't have a relationship with their parent would still possibly have somebody who could get them connection to through these systems if we choose to implement that kind of gating. Similarly, for age verification, this can be an important tool to ensure that the right populations are communicating or that the right defaults are set in place. But it needs to be done carefully. I particularly want to note that, say, reliance on a government ID, one, many young people simply don't have them. But if you are talking about transgender individuals of all ages, you may not always have an ID document that is consistent with the name and gender that they would be using on that platform. So wanting to ensure that there are ways to appeal, that there are multiple mechanisms that can be provided. All to just say this is a complicated area. We know that social media and online life can be harmful, but it can also be helpful. And we stand ready to continue to assist to ensure that the needs of our community are not overlooked at a time when they most need the ability to connect with each other.
Thank you so much for those comments. We greatly appreciate them. I currently don't have anyone lined up in the queue. Once again, please go ahead and raise your hand. We have quite the robust group here. I'm sure there are still some things that have been left unsaid. Would love to hear from you. And I'll put up the number just one more time, just so folks have it in case you are experiencing some Teams-related difficulties. And again, you are also, of course, welcome to write to us at kohsrfc@ntia.gov. That's kohsrfc@ntia.gov. We are not only interested in hearing from you here, but if you have additional comments, additional things that you'd like to raise for us or for the task force, please feel free to send comments there. Once again, just simply from the top, we are representing the White House's Kids Online Health and Safety Task Force that we are co-leading with the Department of Health and Human Services, specifically the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Our tasks include not only cataloging the status of current industry efforts, but also the creation of guidelines, toolkits, and policies for privacy, health, and safety by design. So one of the things that we, of course, are interested in hearing about, and we already have heard about, is what are the risks and benefits that the current online environment poses to children, particularly with regards to the protections that have been put in place by online platforms and services. But we're also looking to hear from all of you what we should be putting in and what we should be considering and thinking through in terms of this guidance, these toolkits, and these policies that we'd be putting forward for industry. So greatly appreciate the comments that we've had so far. Want to give it a few more minutes. We have 10 minutes left in our allotted time. Certainly want to hear from you. This is your opportunity to present, not only to NTIA, but we have a number of representatives from the task force, from the interagency on the line, looking to hear from you. All right, I'm going to do one last call for anyone who is interested in presenting, is interested in giving their thoughts. Again, I would know folks who had already presented who maybe felt like they were cut a little bit short on time and had a few extra things that they wanted to add. You are, of course, welcome at this point in time, since we do have some additional time and others aren't stepping forward. Would welcome you to add on some additional thoughts or additional flavor that you felt either a little bit rushed on or that you just didn't have quite the space to add. Would welcome you to participate again. Again, just go ahead and hit the raise hand function, or if you're on the line, hit *5 to raise your hand. Thank you. All right, it looks like we have reached the saturation in terms of folks' ability to participate in this. Again, if anyone does, in my final minutes, decide to change their mind, hit *5 or raise your hand. But I'm more than happy to give you 8 minutes back. Thank you all so much for your participation, particularly those who shared their thoughts and their comments, and to everyone who participated in our request for comment. This is not the last that you'll be hearing from us or the task force on this issue. We will be having more public engagement forthcoming, and we are also looking forward to then presenting the president with our final deliverables in the spring. Thanks again to my team for helping to make this possible. Thank you to Russell Hanser, to Emma Alonso, Christopher Quarles, Justice Shannon, Ruth Udakin, and of course our public affairs and congressional affairs teams for helping as well. Thank you all for your time, and we look forward to continued engagement with you on this very important issue. And if you do have any additional thoughts or comments that you would like to share with us, please don't hesitate to reach out, particularly through the email kohsrfc@ntia.gov. Again, that's KOSRFC@ntia.gov. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.